We now know she was what is known as a collodion baby, but I don't think they'd ever seen it, that any of the people in the room at the time had ever seen that. And it's where the baby's born in like a film, like a greyish film.
So my name is Amy Bingham. I've got Netherton syndrome, which is a form of ichthyosis. I'm 22. I've had it all my life. You can't not have it all your life. I'm just going back to university for my second year. I've got 3 sisters and 2 dogs, 3 horses at the minute, and we live on a farm in Derbyshire.
He just recognised the look of Amy, and he says, "I think I've seen this before." He says, I don't want to, well, raise your hopes, but I think I've seen it before, and I think it might be something called Netherton's. Can I take a sample of hair? And he took this sample of hair, took it back to Great Ormond Street, which is where he was based, and tested it, and it came up with his bamboo. I've still got the picture. He sent us a picture of, under the microscope, Amy's hair is built like bamboo, and that's why it's called bamboo hair. He says it's Netherton syndrome.
Most times that people have asked me about my skin, it's been either strangers on the street turning around and going, you know, what's wrong with your face? Why is your face so red? You know, how'd you get sunburnt? I find it almost like an interrogation sort of thing, having to speak about it. And at school with friends, you know, trying to make friends, and kids just saying, oh, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you here all the time?
I couldn't keep her warm, so I took it, and everybody, and I was not going to do it, says do not take a baby to bed with you, and I wasn't going to do it. But I thought the only way I can keep her warm is to have her in bed with me. And then the doctor the day after said if I hadn't done that, she wouldn't have survived. So mother's instincts kicked in, and I kept her warm. Mark, Amy's dad, started to feel ill while I was pregnant with Amy. Not long after Amy was born, he just felt really poorly. So we went to the GP, and the GP says there's something seriously wrong. You need to go to hospital. And this student doctor came round in the middle of the night asking loads of questions. I said, do you mind if I have a little feel of you? And he said, no, go ahead. And found a lump. The lump was in his throat. So they took a biopsy and blood tests, and it turned out he'd got non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And it was stage 4, grade 4, which is, it was as bad as it could get, really. It spread everywhere, and it was very aggressive, and he was 28 years old. So we managed to get him into a hospice. We got him into a hospice in Sheffield. It was in one night, and he died. That was so Amy was 15 months old, I think, when he died. I like singing, so I started in the choir in church, and there's a bell ringer called John, and I know he was single, and he was a farmer, and one of our mutual friends, who's in her 80s now, she says, he's ever so shy, he'll never ring you, you're going to have to ring him. So I did. I rang him out of the blue. He didn't have a clue. I probably thought she's a complete mad woman, but he said he'd go out for a drink with me. Then we dated twice a week for a while, and then he asked me to marry him. It was all quite quick, but he was 42 and I was 36, so we thought we'd better get on with it. And his mum and Amy were like, yes. Ichthyosis Netherton's is not dry skin, is it? It's more than that. It's nothing. If your skin doesn't work properly, it affects everything. She has allergies, everything. She can't keep warm in the winter. She can't stay cool in the summer.
So fish and fish fumes is the worst one. So I have anaphylaxis, anaphylactic shock. If I smell fish fumes, it somehow gets under the skin. I'm allergic to dogs, horses, most animals except for cats, which is quite ironic. Eggs, walnuts, most fruit. Got really bad hay fever. Any clothing that's not cotton. I can only wear cotton clothing. The biggest thing is the itching, which I found really interesting at the last conference. They spoke about it as itch, which they've never spoken about the itching as much as they have the last time. That's the biggest thing for me. I lose sleep over it. I do it without even realising I'm doing it. I get really dry skin on my hands and my feet. So on my knuckles it's flaking there, but then it's really sore everywhere else. And then I get linear circumflexia there. So you can see it around my wrist there, and I've got it on my feet at the minute as well. Because of the injections, I've just had a bad flare up on my legs, and it comes up massive red rashes, and the skin that is good peels away to make more red rash that's incredibly irritable. It's affected my eyes and my ears. At the minute I use like a camera, and it's got like a spoon scoop on the end of it to try and bring out the wax and the skin away from the eardrum. On a good day, it just feels itchy. It feels, I don't know how to explain it, like ants maybe on your skin crawling around that's constantly irritating you. I'd rather it hurt than it itch. I can deal with it hurting because then I can take, paracetamol or something and get rid of it or ease it for a bit. But the itching, I just never seemed to be able to calm down at all. It was always there. I was always doing something. I was always itching something. A few years ago, for getting some personal independence payment benefit, a man came to do an interview to see how my condition affected my work, why I couldn't work and things like that. And he was supposed to come when I had someone with me, and he didn't. He came early and said, we'll do it now. And he was asking all these questions, and they weren't really questions that worked around my skin condition and how that affected me. And he said to my mum, well, I'm not really sure how I can help because I don't really know. I don't know what she has. So I can't fully say that she can have it because I don't know what it is she has, and I don't know how it could affect her. He just couldn't wrap his head around it. I had to have another lady come out and do an interview again. She was really nice. She says, I've done a bit of research onto your skin condition, and she says, I can understand why you would need it. And so from the first thing she said, I was a lot calmer and able to explain, and she understood, and she was asking different questions, sort of things like it affects the bottom of my feet so I can't stand for very long, how far I can walk on a bad day. She was going off, so if she says, the first thing she says was, any question I ask you, I want you to answer as though it's a really bad day and you can't walk at all. So I did, and I got it.
It makes you feel angry. When she was a baby and we got very dismissive attitudes from the first dermatologist until we actually met a lovely lady called Dr. Ravenscroft. We had one doctor say, we had a midwife very early on, says, look, this baby's dehydrated. And a doctor, I did get an apology off him eventually, but a doctor said, he went, how do you know she's dehydrated? And then never tested her. And that was like 2 days before she was found to be in kidney failure through dehydration. Never tested, never listened to the midwife.
And I've been part of the ISG since I think just after it started, because we've just had its 25th year and I've just turned 22, so it's 3 years older than me. So I went to the first conference day, I think, but I can't remember where it was. First one my mum remembers is Blenheim, and the first one I can remember is Cardiff. We've just been to the one in Shrewsbury, in Shropshire. That was the most interesting one that I've been to, where they spoke more about finding treatments and things for Netherton syndrome. That I've never heard so much talked about Netherton syndrome in a long time.
The first Ichthyosis Support Group family day I can remember is Blenheim. He's going to Blenheim. And I was quite nervous because I'd booked, the most nerve-wracking thing for me was I'd booked Amy into the creche facilities there. And as a mum with a child with medical needs, you don't actually, apart from when they go to school, and you're always with them constantly. And it was really lovely, actually.
When I was younger, the main thing I can remember is going on the camps to PGL. They brought out confidence in me because I could see all the kids going through the same similar things that I was and still doing all this activity. But it was just everyone was so nice and friendly and going through similar things, so you could relate to them. Everyone understood what you were going through, which was a first. At this last conference, we were speaking to professors and doctors that were seeking out a cure and currently going through research trials to try and find a cure. Whether they'll work or not, we don't know, but they've never had so much interest in Netherton's since I've been alive. We've met so many nice people there last week. I've got in touch with so many families, and everyone is just so friendly. It's like, I don't know how to explain it. I've never known a group of people so friendly and so happy to be with each other, and so happy to welcome you in, and everyone was just so nice. And it was nice to share stories with people that, like, I'm 22 now, but we were sat next to a family with a very little boy that had Netherton's, and my mum was able to tell them, it does get better, it does get better. It is scary, but it gets better. And I think if it weren't for the ISG, I would never have met anyone else with Netherton's, and I wouldn't have believed anyone else has it. So
the team's calls with doctors in France and America, or pharmacists in France and America doing research, and being able to speak to them directly was amazing for us. I didn't understand all the science, but we have been forwarded the papers, which I will try and get my head around.
And then when I swapped from paediatrics to the adult wing, I swapped doctors, and it's a doctor called Dr. Tang, and whenever I see him, I'm very confident that he knows what he's talking about. He's very professional, very, very nice. He knows what he's talking about. He knows different treatments that we can try. He always tries to say something, but he's so busy that usually I see one of his nurse consultants.
As Amy was very small but growing up, for me, I needed to think how we could make this as as positive a life as possible for Amy, and in my head, a way of doing that was by finding something she really enjoyed, or was really good at. So I love horse riding, and I thought this is something that I could share with Amy. And it could be something that she could be really good at.
So horses, they've been there the whole time, and during COVID I did an apprenticeship with horses at a stable yard in Sheffield, and I learnt so much from there. I'm studying equestrian business management, which is a business management course centred around the equestrian industry, so horses pretty much, learning how to run an equestrian business, such as a yard where people would keep their horses, a livery yard, or a riding stables, or working at a feed company or something like that. It's quite varied. My big passion is horses. That's what I love. It's most of my family, well, me, my mum and my sister, that's what we're very much into. And then I got my own horse when I was 13, and that's when I suddenly started growing, which is strange because my pony was naughty and strong, and you had to be strong to ride him. So I went from being tiny, I wasn't growing properly, to the next minute growing about a foot and getting really strong. I don't know what happened. He also taught me to be confident as well, because if I wasn't confident around him, then he'd just get me off within seconds. But I loved him to pieces. The big thing that I think me and my mum and my sister want is to have our own yard, and work towards having a yard at our place, and that being the big business for the family.